Inside an empty store, Carol tries to consume any medicine or energy drink she can find to stay awake. Outside, dangerous forces keep pounding on the door, trying to reach her. This chaos began a few days ago when a space shuttle suddenly exploded upon returning to Earth, scattering its fragments across several states in the United States. The media quickly covers the news, saying it's a sign of an alien invasion. Most people are scared and avoid touching the wreckage, but there are many opportunists selling it on eBay. Tucker, head of the Centers for Disease Control, arrives at one of the crash sites to inspect it. He discovers that a fragment is contaminated with a mysterious organism that can withstand high levels of radiation and multiply rapidly, suggesting it is from another planet. As he leaves, Tucker accidentally touches a small piece of the wreckage and cuts his finger, but he ignores it. Later that night, Tucker arrives home and finds his dog growling for no apparent reason. Ignoring the animal, he goes to bed. However, his body begins to sweat profusely, and he experiences an intense cellular condensation on his face, as if something has taken him over. Meanwhile, Tucker's ex-wife, Carol, hears her son Oliver screaming from a nightmare and comforts him throughout the night. The next morning, Carol receives a call from Tucker asking to see his son, which is unusual for him. Carol refuses and hangs up. Afterward, she drops Oliver off at school and heads to her office, where she works as a psychiatrist. On the way, she runs into her best friend Ben, who offers her a ride. Ben, a doctor, tells her that the government is hiding something, as all the investigators from the crash site have resigned. Carol is not in the mood for politics and complains about Tucker. When she arrives at her office, Carol sees her first patient, Wendy, who shares that her husband has been acting strangely. A few days ago, he came home, and their usually friendly dog started growling at him for no reason. Her husband killed the dog without showing any emotion. Carol realizes that something isn't right, but for now, she just prescribes Wendy a new medication. That night, Carol and her neighbor take the kids trick-or-treating. As they approach a certain house, the family's dog starts barking furiously, although the owner insists it's normally docile. The group tries to leave, but suddenly the dog pounces on one of the children and knocks him down. The child doesn't seem affected. In fact, he grabs the dog's mouth with his hands until the owner pulls it away. It's later discovered that the child is injured but maintains a neutral expression. The group returns to Carol's house, and while the children share their candy, the neighbor comments that her son has been acting strangely, as if he has lost his emotions. Suddenly, Oliver starts screaming from another room. When Carol runs to check on him, she discovers a strange piece of flesh coming out of his hand, which he had pulled from his candy. The next morning, Carol sees a terrified woman running down the street, but ignores her. She takes the strange flesh to Ben, who shares it with his scientist friend Steven. He promises to investigate, but the analysis will take some time. Meanwhile, a mysterious virus begins to spread across the country, causing many deaths each day, but no one knows the cause. Soon, an emergency meeting is held in the Capitol. Tucker explains that the new virus is spreading at an unprecedented rate, and if they don't do something about it, the country will go into recession. When some researchers ask for a possible solution, Tucker says the only way to stop the spread is to conduct a mass inoculation program. Meanwhile, many infected waiters vomit directly into the tea they are about to serve to the guests. After leaving the hospital, Carol sees a homeless man having convulsions on the street, but unlike the terrified woman, he is being helped. When she arrives at her office, Carol is surprised to find Wendy's husband, who refuses to leave until he sees his wife. He also shows no emotion while speaking. Carol calls Wendy to warn her and saves her from entering the building. Wendy then takes a taxi to her sister's house. Later that night, Carol reluctantly decides to let Oliver spend time with Tucker, as it is his right as a father. On the way to Tucker's house, a terrified woman suddenly appears in the middle of the road. Fortunately, Carol breaks in time. The woman desperately asks for help, insisting that something terrible is about to happen, but before she can give more details, a car hits her. Carol notices that the driver maintains a neutral expression during the horrible accident. When the police arrive at the scene, Carol wants to testify against him, but the police chief simply tells her to go home, assuring her that they have everything under control, which Carol finds very strange. Moments later, Carol drops Oliver off at Tucker's house, noticing that her ex-husband doesn't show much emotion before she leaves. Later, she meets up with Ben to attend a very elegant party, where they have a philosophical conversation with the diplomat Belichick, his wife Ludmila, and Dr. Urish. After the party, Ben takes Carol home and tries to kiss her, but Carol interrupts the kiss because she doesn't want to ruin their friendship. Once inside the house, Carol sends a message to Oliver and suddenly hears someone at the door. She opens it slightly and finds a man asking census questions, which is strange for that time of night. Carol tries to close the door, but the man sticks his hand in, starting a struggle between them. In the end, Carol manages to win and close the door, causing the man to leave. Meanwhile, Oliver is playing with his friend Gene, who comments that his father is behaving strangely. Oliver feels the same way about his own father. When he gets home, Oliver finds Tucker preparing a special drink for him. The next morning, Carol notices that many people on the streets have vacant stares, as if their souls have been stolen. Upon arriving at her office, she is surprised to learn that all her patients have canceled their appointments for the day. Carol tries to call Wendy, but her husband answers, saying that everything is fine. This makes Carol reflect on what she has been seeing and realize that the virus is controlling people. As Carol begins to research this, her secretary startles her by offering her tea. Before drinking, Carol receives a call from Ben, informing her that the test results for the strange skin are ready. Carol goes immediately to the lab, where Stephen explains that the skin sample is composed of various molecular spores that take control of the human brain during sleep and alter the genetic code, making the person unstable. This means that to avoid infection, they must stay awake until they find a cure. At that moment, Ludmila calls Ben, saying that Urish is acting strangely. This makes the trio rush immediately to his house. On the way, Carol notices long lines on the streets where people are waiting to be vaccinated against the new virus. When they arrive at Urish's house, they find him in bed, undergoing a grotesque transformation. Carol tries to take a photo, but suddenly the monstrous man wakes up and attacks her. Ben quickly pushes Urish away, who begins to vomit a strange liquid and dies. After that, Carol becomes very worried about the possibility that her son is in danger, exposed to this chaos. Carol rushes to Tucker's house to find Oliver. When she arrives, she finds Tucker in a meeting with his associates and immediately asks for her son. Tucker says that Oliver is playing at Jean's house, but Carol doesn't believe him and starts searching the house for Oliver. At that moment, the men from the meeting surround Carol, who gets scared and tries to flee. Tucker quickly tackles her to the ground and tries to infect her with his saliva. Fortunately, Carol manages to push him off and escapes through the back door. She tries to ask the neighbors for help, but discovers they are also infected. She reaches her car, but finds the road blocked on all sides and ends up crashing. After getting out of the car, she is chased by a group of infected people. She finally reaches the main avenue and tries to ask for help, but everyone ignores her. Desperate, she decides to enter a subway station. Carol takes the train and finds it full of passengers with the same vacant expressions. At that moment, her phone rings and she sees a message from Oliver asking her to save him because Tucker has hidden him somewhere. This leaves Carol on the verge of a breakdown. One of the passengers reveals to her that he is not infected and that everyone is acting emotionless, so the infected will ignore them. He advises her to do the same. Suddenly, a group of infected people enters the car, and Carol and the other passengers run to the end of the train and close the door. The infected press the emergency button to stop the train and begin to force the door open to infect the passengers. Then, Carol opens the back door and jumps from the car, managing to escape. She runs through the tunnel until she reaches the locker room of a station. There, she finds a guard's gun, and when the guard approaches her, she gets scared and shoots by accident. Terrified, Carol drops the gun and walks through the station, maintaining a neutral expression to pretend she is infected. When she gets back to the street, she sees some police officers capturing uninfected citizens to force them to receive the vaccine, which is actually a trick by Tucker to spread the virus. At that moment, an uninfected police officer notices the sweat on Carol's face and tells her to leave quickly because it will give her away. Carol starts to walk away and runs into her neighbor, who offers her the injection. Fortunately, Carol's act convinces her neighbor that she has already been vaccinated. Then Carol goes to Tucker's house but finds it empty. She leaves a message for Oliver before leaving again. On her way, she encounters a group of people watching as a couple takes their own lives. Carol makes sure not to react and continues walking until she reaches the Belisek mansion, where Ben and Stephen are still conducting some tests. After a brief discussion, Ben decides to help Carol find her son, while Stephen and his assistant prepare to travel to Fort Detrick in Maryland to find a cure for the virus. They also decide to stay awake for fear of having been infected if they sleep. At that moment, Belichick returns and Ludmila greets him with a hug. But Belichick is infected and worried about possible intruders, so he lets a group of guards in. Fortunately, Carol and the others see this on the security cameras and escape through the back door. Upon reaching the streets, they notice Wendy being forcibly taken away by infected police officers. Wendy tries to resist, screaming that she has slept and is still fine, but the police beat her anyway. The group splits up. Carol and Ben talk about Wendy's words and deduce that somehow Wendy developed immunity to the virus. Then, the pair finds a dead police officer on the ground and steals his car, heading to Carol's office. There, they start searching for Wendy's medical profile. Ben discovers that Wendy suffered from a brain disease called encephalitis, which is why she is immune. The virus only attacks healthy brains to feed and multiply. Ben calls Stephen at the lab to give him this new information, while Carol receives another message from Oliver, mentioning that he is being held at his grandmother's house in Baltimore. Scared, Carol confesses to Ben that she has already been infected by the virus, but Ben promises her that everything will be fine. Then Ben drives like a madman toward the city, breaking through roadblocks until he has no choice but to let Carol go, distracting the police so they chase him instead. Carol continues on foot, and when a police officer stops her, she presents her ID with a neutral expression, and they let her go. Eventually, Carol reaches the station and takes the train to Baltimore, where she hides in the bathroom. The lack of sleep begins to affect her, and she starts having visions, like seeing a second version of herself in the mirror that wants to attack her. She wakes up in time, and after washing a piece of that strange flesh off, she opens the door and finds Jean, who explains that she lost her family and is now part of his. Jean keeps asking Carol to sleep, but she pretends she will. Upon arriving in Baltimore, Jean checks on her again and finds her removing more pieces of flesh from her body, which makes him suspicious. Tucker picks up Carol and Jean to take them to his mother's house, believing Carol's act of not showing emotion. Oliver is not around, but Carol keeps up the pretense in front of the family. When she receives a call from Ben, she speaks in code, pretending to be his secretary. Finally, when Tucker leaves for work, Carol takes the opportunity to search the house. Carol finally finds Oliver in a room. At first, they both hesitate, but when Carol says a few words to confirm she is okay, they hug. Oliver mentions that he has been sleeping every day but has not transformed, and Carol realizes that his medication for his sleep disorder has made him immune. Suddenly, Jean catches them, but Carol easily pushes him away and runs out with her son. As they flee, Tucker sees them from the window and chases them through the streets. Oliver finds a broken window in an abandoned warehouse, and they hide there. But Tucker also enters. While he delivers a monologue like a movie villain, Carol tries to sneak toward the door, but Tucker grabs her from behind and tries to knock her out. Oliver intervenes and hits his father with a metal tool. Tucker catches him, which gives Carol the opportunity to hit him on the head and knock him unconscious, allowing them to escape. Afterward, Carol and Oliver hide in an empty department store. Carol searches the medicine section and finds an injection that she shows to Oliver, explaining that he will have to inject it into her heart if she falls asleep. Then they look for food, and Carol receives a call from Ben, who has discovered their location and promises to come and get them soon. While his mother is busy with the call, Oliver slowly approaches a door with blood around it, but fortunately, Carol stops him before he can open it. Carol enters and finds several people on the floor undergoing the transformation. The group includes a police officer, so she carefully approaches to take his gun before running out and closing the door, telling Oliver to stay away. Hours pass as they wait for Ben, and while Oliver sleeps, Carol desperately searches for anything to help her stay awake, returning to the beginning of the story. Unfortunately, it's not enough, and Carol finally falls asleep. At the same time, the people inside the room wake up and begin to pound on the door, trying to get out. The noise wakes up Oliver, who discovers that his mother has fallen asleep, so he immediately injects her with the syringe, which wakes her up and stops the transformation in time. Carol washes the strange flesh from her face and comes out of the bathroom to find that Ben has finally arrived. She runs to hug him, but soon realizes that he has also been infected. Carol backs away as Ben invites her to join the new society that will have no crime, hatred, or discrimination. Terrified, Carol points her gun at him, but Ben opens the door anyway and releases the other infected people, mentioning that they hate the immune, pointing at Oliver. The group tries to capture the boy, so Carol starts shooting rapidly, killing them one by one. However, she can't bring herself to kill Ben, so she just shoots him in the leg and escapes with Oliver. Outside, they take Ben's car to flee. As Carol drives like a madwoman, she receives a call from Steven, who gives her an address where a helicopter will be waiting for them. Upon reaching the main street, she is surrounded by cars and ends up crashing, getting knocked unconscious. Many infected people surround the car, and Oliver locks the doors while shaking his mother to wake her up. A man manages to break the window, but before he can infect them, Carol accelerates and pushes through the crowd to escape. There are still some crazy people hanging from the roof of the car, so Carol drives like a maniac, crashing on purpose to make them fall off. There are also police cars ramming her vehicle until they cause her to crash, launching the last attackers through a store window. Fortunately, the car still works and Carol continues driving while receiving instructions from Steven over the phone. An infected man throws a Molotov cocktail at the car, but Carol keeps driving with the vehicle on fire, not stopping until she reaches the parking lot of the correct building. The car crashes into a pillar and Carol and Oliver run to the elevator, where they are almost caught by the infected. They hit them and push them away, allowing the doors to close. The pair finally reaches the roof, where Steven and his army friends rescue them in a helicopter. Sometime later, scientists from outside the United States finally create a vaccine, and thanks to it, the alien virus is eradicated from the entire world, allowing life to return to normal. As the lead scientist behind the vaccine, Steven explains to the press that the vaccinated people will have no memories of the previous events. Meanwhile, Carol has adopted Jean and is now in a relationship with Ben. While the children go to school, Ben reads the newspaper and comments on the violent crimes committed by people, which makes Carol reflect on the aliens' offer of peace.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.